The Flood Scary Stories sub now for the best Reddit vids on YouTube. Enjoy. In the distance, something stood. My view of the thing was obscured by the relentless rain that plagued our nights for the last few weeks. It was a figure behind a tree far out towards the end of our dirt driveway. It seemed like it was covered in a brown raincoat that dressed the entire length of its lanky body. I stayed there fixated at whatever it was. Was it a person just taking a moment behind a tree to get out of the rain? That seems odd because these trees wouldn't give you too much cover. I watched it, almost hoping it would move so I could confirm that it was human. It did not move. "Baby, what are you doing?" My wife called to me from the living room. Her tone was concerned that I hadn't come back to the couch. My eyes lifted themselves from the end of our driveway for a split second, and the curtain relaxed back into place as I turned to answer. "I'm just grabbing something to drink, sweetie. It's really pouring out there tonight." I thought to look back at whatever thing was out there, but I had already gave it too much of my time. It hadn't moved, and even if it was some random guy, I got the 9mm under my bed a few feet away. It may have just been a trick of the rain, or maybe something that fell off a pickup truck out there. It does make sense. The drivers here aren't good in the rain. I hear my wife answer me back in a playful mood as I walked back to her. "You better have gotten me something too," she said, her curly brown hair pulled into a sleepy bun and her legs tucked under the covers. "What if I didn't?" I teased, back to resume our movie night. "Well then," she chuckled, "I guess you just want to end up alone." As we sat together on the couch, my mind wandered to what that thing was, but my attention was pulled in 3 different directions. I sat there watching the terrible horror flick we picked out while fielding questions from my wife. Maybe it was another tree that fell down and was standing upright, but I could have sworn it had shoulders and a head. It looked as if it was watching me from 50 yards away. Why didn't she grab the lamppost or something? "Oh, she can break it and use it like a shiv," my wife declared, making a stabbing motion to the air. "It's hard to think about these things in the moment. You're so filled with fear that you miss a lot of obvious things," I explained. "Plus, they have to play it up with the suspense." The odd figure had eventually faded from my thoughts as we spoke. The tension left me as I focused in on the movie. It wouldn't even be on my radar until the next day when I heard about the deadly flood. "She's the killer," my wife said, pointing to a character that I would have never thought was suspicious. "How do you know that?" I said in disbelief, trying to piece together her logic for this. As we watched the movie, we made pretend bets on who the killer was and why that made sense in the plot. I dug my heels in with an aloof male character that the group hardly acknowledged. I was confident that he was way too obvious. That is how they usually do it, someone you wouldn't expect. We shook on it, betting a fictional bajillion dollars on our suspects. She was right. She always knew who the killer was. BZZZT. A loud alert followed by frantic buzzing erupted from both of our phones late into the night. It forced us awake. I turned over to the bedside table to silence it. "It's probably an Amber Alert," I said, reaching for the phones. My hands fumbled the phones together, pulling them to the bed. The chargers snapped off as I did. I thought I had silenced them, stopping any Amber Alerts in the nighttime from sounding. I thought about who the hell in their right mind is going to get up and go look for a stranger's child in the middle of the night. I felt annoyed as I unlocked mine and hers. My bleary eyes focused on the phone light as I held it up. The Face ID tried twice to open it, but there wasn't enough light in our room to make it work properly. All the while, the screeching alarm continued on. "Turn it off," my wife begged from the other side of the bed. "I'm trying, sweetie. Hold on." When I finally was able to stop the alert on my phone, I worked on hers. I deftly entered her passcode and silenced it, thankful for the end to the annoyance. But just as I was putting her phone back, I saw a message pop up. This a message from the emergency broadcast system. "There have been anomalous entities coming from the recently flooded White Oaks funeral grounds. If you see any of these such things, do not be alarmed. They are reported to be harmless. Lock your doors and remain inside. Dial 911. Do not attempt to make contact with the bodies." Bodies? What the hell? I say to myself, coming fully awake. I look up the time. It's 3:23 a.m. I wonder if I should just head back to bed, but the text has me too worried to fall back asleep without getting some more information. I put down her phone and pick mine back up, searching in Google for my local news. Due to a recent massive flooding of the Greenway River, the White Oaks funeral home has been completely destroyed. The south section of the graveyard has become a part of the Greenway River, and many of the deceased have been unearthed, floating to surface. Local authorities have since taken preventative measures to wall off the remaining parts of the... Another text comes across the top of my phone. "Tell her." My blood runs cold. I sit up in bed, breathing hard. My wife notices and lifts her head to whisper her complaints. "Alex, go back to bed," she says half-hearted. "I have work in 3 hours." I slowly rise out of bed. The creaking springs sighing as my weight lifts off annoys her even further, but she just turns around and asks me to go to sleep on the couch if I can't sleep. "I don't think anyone is working today, baby," I said, pulling on the pants that I threw off before I came to bed. "There's a major flood going, and they want everyone to stay inside." There was no response from her. She was done with this interaction. She wanted sleep first and foremost, and I couldn't blame her. I walked into our living room, racking my brain to comprehend what's happening. The hard rain still beat down on the roof above, bathing the entire house in a loud static. I looked at our backyard from the door window, and the ground around our own patio was starting to look like a pond. I couldn't believe that this flood was powerful enough to raise to the dead from the grave. This must be going on everywhere as well. The long, dead bones of whoever is buried there is being floated around the town on the current of this unrelenting rain. The townspeople that grew up here are being pushed down their childhood roads and showing their face in their hometown again. I can't imagine how their relatives are taking this. What was that about them not being dangerous? Of course they're not dangerous. Why would they specify that? I thought to myself for a moment, and then realized how religious our little town is and how this could be seen from a religious perspective. Seeing the dead at your doorstep could send a few people into a frenzy. That's understandable. I pulled my phone out again and went to my text messages. It sat at the top of the unread list still. Tell her. I had hardly noticed the message itself when it came. What sent me into a panic attack was the name attached to the message. Emily. Emily Jenkins, my ex-wife. Who the hell is sending me texts with her old number? She's been gone for 3 years now, and never once have I got a text from that number. It's got to be someone thinking I'm somebody else. I decided to reply back to the text. Who is this? I think you have the wrong number. As soon as I hit send, 3 dots showed on the opposite side of the chat, telling me that whoever was on the other side was replying. Tell her, Alex. She deserves to know. My breathing became unsteady and labored. I felt faint. The blood in my extremities began to leave me. The tingling feeling of numbness settled in my hands and feet, and my vision closed around me. This was a panic attack. I know it. I've been having them more frequently recently. I know that I'm not in danger, but my body says otherwise. I begin to pace around the room, trying to calm myself. There are ways to get out of this loop. You just have to ride it out. I place my fingers on my neck, listening to my pulse. It's extremely fast. I focus. I'm okay. No one found out. I'm safe. I make myself repeat it. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I whisper to myself, my eyes closed. I can feel my heart pounding in my head as I crumble to the ground, trying to calm myself. Who is this person, and what do they have on me? How the hell did they find out what happened? I need to get the hell out of here. It's only a matter of time before whoever this is goes to the authorities. I need to grab the essentials and move quick. I have a sleeping bag in my trunk. I can buy some dried food from the grocery before I head to the gas station. I stand up and head over to the front of the house to find my spare gas canisters. They're neatly stacked and ready for me in the corner of the room. Just as I go to grab the first one to tuck under my arm, thunder roars overhead. It stops me for a second as the entire house vibrates with its force. Oh no, I whisper. This rain is going to keep me stranded here. I bet the roads are too flooded to even walk on. I strode over the window facing the driveway, opening the curtain to inspect the rain level. What my eyes saw, my mind could not comprehend. I stood there, unable to look away from the horror of the flesh hanging off the bones. The gaunt look it gave me from its shrunken black eyes shot a surge of adrenaline through me. Splashes of black hair laid wet on a rotten scalp. The uncovered bones of her mouth were yellow like the dress she was buried in that day. Emily stood there, her withered and black ankles covered by the foot of water beneath her. She did not move, only seemed to stare. Her hanging jaw agape with decaying skin. The rain gathered in her mouth and overflowed. The fact that she was standing defied every ounce of logic I had. Her legs almost nothing but twigs, barely even bone. I stood there. The events of our marriage played out in my head. I remembered our wedding and how her father insisted on having the last dance. One memory came to mind of how she was always mad that I didn't brush twice a day like she did. She told me my teeth are going to rot out my head. Sweetie, you okay? I jumped back from the noise. A soft yelp left my throat. I then realized it was my wife who came in behind me. She was hunched over, a heavy blanket covering her. Her hand was reaching out to touch my forehead as I turned to see her. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry, I just couldn't sleep, and I just came in here to, just to tidy up is all, I say in a shaky voice. Tidy up? Baby, it's 4 in the morning. She looked at me with doubt. Then she added, what were you doing? She then went for the curtain, and I tried to stop her from opening it. My hands grasped hers in a pleading sense of guilt. Baby, it's really bad out there, okay? We gotta get out of here. Maybe there's a hotel the next town over? I said, desperate to leave this town behind me. A hotel? Why? It's not that bad. She reached for the curtain again, and this time, I could not stop her. She peered outside, and I watched her face contort slightly. Wow, it is really bad out there. But we can't get on the road anyway. Not with your little Honda Civic. She smiled at me and looked back outside. I looked back outside, thinking she must have seen it. I pressed the blinds down to see, but there was nothing. There's no one there. The rain beat down on our soggy front yard, and thunder roared again in the distance. My wife continued the conversation without me. But not too bad, she said, shrugging her shoulders. The storm drains out there is still going, and... Jessica, don't argue with me, I said, my tone even and voice dropped. I continued to stare at her, never letting up. Jessica, pack your bags now. It's not safe here anymore. Alex, calm down. It's just the RA. I didn't even let her finish the sentence before I raised my hand with a threat to backhand her. As soon as my hand went up, she stopped speaking and flinched slightly. I had only had to hit her a few times, and she usually didn't get under my skin. But right now, I just wasn't in the mood for a talking back. My eyes never left hers as I pointed to the back of the house and slowly spoke the words as if I was talking to a toddler. Get your stuff now. She seemed hesitant at first, looking back to me with that little prick of defiance I had tried to pry out of her when we first met. She stood there about to say something, As she started to speak, I snapped my fingers at her, pointing again to the back where we keep our clothes. She turned her head and started towards the back. I couldn't have her questioning me right now. Whoever this is on the other side of those texts knows what I did. I have to get out of here, rain or not, and she's coming with me. I'll get a different job. I can pull a few strings, no problem. The next few hours were spent emotionally detaching from my life that I built here while I prepped for a new one. It wasn't the first time I've had to do it. To be honest, it most likely wouldn't be the last time either. I had gotten pretty good at it over the years. I opened up the garage to the front of the house, half expecting to see Emily in my front yard again, but there was nothing and no one around. Just the strong surge of rain that whistled through the treetops and the occasional lifted truck passing by the house. I filled my trunk with camping gear, just in case I had to lay low for a while. I had a few propane cans for a portable grill that I tossed in there as well. My tent and my ropes were thrown in shortly after I neatly tucked away the axe and hunting knife into the hidden compartments of my trunk. As I closed the hidden compartment, I paused and opened it back up. I placed the knife and sheath in my back pocket, feeling I would need it. My phone vibrated. I fished my phone out of my pocket and saw that it was Emily's number again. "Don't make the same mistake, Alex." I twisted around, looking out into the rain. Then I jerked around to look behind me, my eyes darting around the garage. I quickly knelt down to the concrete drive and looked under the car. "Where are you?" I yelled into the onslaught of the storm. "Stop flipping hiding, you coward." Whoever this person was, they were obviously watching me from a distance. I quickly ran and ducked behind the front of the car so they wouldn't see me from the outside. I peeked out, trying to make out anything in the rain, but I couldn't. They were watching me, waiting for me to come out. I needed to get my gun from under the bed. Jessica should be just about done getting her things together. I dashed to the front door, hopefully dodging whatever gun they had on me, and rushed inside. My shoes squelched under the floor as I walked back to the master bedroom. I didn't have time to worry about cleaning up. By tomorrow morning, I'll be long gone. They'll be shopping for another place soon enough. I come up on the master bedroom door and see that it's closed. A fresh panic entered me when I went to turn the handle. Locked. "Jessica? Open the door, okay? Are you almost ready, sweetie?" No response. "Jessica, open this flipping door." Cold silence. "Jessica, Jessica," I yelled with intense fervor. "I'm breaking it down." I yelled again. If she wants to stay here, that's completely fine. At this point, she can sit here and drown in the rain for all I care. I can get whoever I want to replace her. That gun, though, is tied to me, and if they start asking questions about that gun, I'll have to book a flight to another country. I don't want to give the justice system any freebies, so all I need is to get that gun and maybe a few pairs of pants and shoes, and I can leave. I started to bash at the door with my shoulder and felt something buckle on the doorknob. The stupid idiot put a chair against the door. "Jessica, don't play these games with me. It's not safe out here, and we need to leave as soon as possible." Silence. "Baby, listen. Look at your phone. The dead are being raised around us." "Okay. It's freaking me out, and I just want to protect you." "Jessica," I yelled back to her, hoping she would be persuaded by my words to open the door. It usually worked. I was able to play on her emotions pretty well when I needed her to do something. "Alex," she finally responded. "Just leave, okay? Just get out of here." I laughed at this. "Jessica, baby, listen. You're acting crazy, okay? You're not making any sense. I'm here to help you," I said to her from behind the door. "It's okay, sweetie. I know you're scared. You just need to listen to me." "No," she said monotone. "You told me you would never raise your hand to me again. You promised." "Baby, listen. I'm just wound up trying to protect you. I would never actually do it again." After a moment of familiar silence, I heard the door rattle as she moved the chair from the door. I gave her a moment, calming myself for the inevitable. She unlocked the door, and I heard her scurry from the door. I opened it slowly. "See? How hard was that? All you had to do was—" I stopped mid-sentence as I saw Jessica in full view, pointing my own gun at me. She had never handled a gun, but they're not difficult to handle. With one hand, I reached out towards her. The other I placed in my back pocket, readying my hunting knife. "Whoa, honey, what are you doing?" "It's me." "Alex? Put down the gun, baby. No one's gonna get hurt here," I say calmly. "No, Alex," she cries, holding back tears. "You're going to leave. That's what's gonna happen. So, you get your crap," the gun steadily pointing at my chest as she speaks with a desperate cry. "You're sounding crazy, baby. Look at you. You don't even know what you're doing." I laughed at her. "Is it even loaded?" She stood there, never budging. Her arms and legs are still. She stares daggers into me, never breaking eye contact. She's just like Emily. Right until the end, she stood here ground, never running. My knife rests securely in my hand with the blade pointing down, so I could come down faster when I close the distance. I step towards her. "I just need another foot or two." "Okay, I'll leave. But I just need that gun, okay? Don't come any closer," she demanded, the gun pointing to my head. There was a split second where neither of us spoke. I waited patiently. My knife was ready to cut the distance. We stood there looking at each other for a while. It's like we were strangers at this point. She was unrecognizable. Who was this woman with a backbone? It's such a shame, too, because at this point I'm going to have to kill her. She might be able to wing me, but I definitely will not miss. They'll have to count on the fact that she will hesitate or miss. Then he'll be able to bring the blade down. It'll miss her when she's dead. Her hand falters slightly, needing a break from holding the gun aloft. This was my chance. I jumped forward, revealing my knife. My hand swings high in the air to prepare for a full swing down into her neck. She hesitates, just like I thought she would, Moments like this are difficult for normal people. Fear will overtake you and stop you from acting decisively. In the milliseconds before I connected, I could see the despair in her eyes. She knew I was going to die here. There was no escape for me. As I lunged, the back window was illuminated by a flash of lightning. The sight caused me to pause and then freeze. Emily stood in the window with her hanging jaw blowing hot breath onto the fogging window. She peered into the room with her decomposing hands pressed against the window. I knew she was looking straight at me. Bang! Jessica always knew who the killer was.